An Englishman, Scotsman, Geordie and a Cypriot walk into a bar. Welcome to Hollywood Balls on a Saturday. It's me, Geordie Pete, running Hollywood Balls with the Football App, the #1 community in the footballing world. Saturday again, so excited. Our special guest today is Director of Berwick Rangers FC, Dave Buglass. Welcome to Dave. We'll be getting to him super soon. Again, Super Kevin Campbell's with us and George from TFA. Welcome, gents.
Morning. Hi, Pete. Hi, Dave. Hi, George. I hope you're ready for today because I can feel it's going to be a good one. I can feel it. I tell you.
We're ready. We're ready, baby. We're ready.
Yeah, the anxiety levels are rising. They're up there now. So
don't worry. You're in a very friendly place. On the menu for you all today, it's quite a show. It's a special day because the Premier League is back, and it's Arsenal against Liverpool, which is fantastic. We'll be talking to Kev because he's got memories about that very special fixture. It brings up a lot of memories. We're going to be asking you about Manchester City. People are talking about the quadruple, but is it a step too far? Not just because it's Man City, but could any club reasonably think that it's a tough competition? All competitions that they're in, we'll be looking at that as well. We want to touch on a point which was brought up on last week's show as well, which is Thierry Henry's stance on social media. So we'll be getting that, as well as our Hollywood Baller of the Week, as well as doing our predictions as well, which has thrown up a little bit of a kerfuffle, but we'll sort that out towards the end of the show. Going to start with George. George, what sort of week have you had?
Great week, very busy. Many things in plan that I can't talk about, but one thing I can talk about, you've heard of this NFT in the crypto world, non-fungible tokens, right?
Yes.
So we're implementing that in the Football App in the coming days, right?
Wow.
It's just 4 or 5 days away. So, big players, big whoever can sell their NFTs in the Football App using TFC. So that's coming real soon.
Okay, speaking of the Football App, big welcome to our Football App followers who are streaming through the turnstiles as we speak. We've got a special code for you. More of that in a little bit. Hello as well to all of our regular guests from Facebook, from YouTube. We're taking over the world. Kev, have you had a busy week?
Do you know what? I thought it would be a quiet week. But it has been. It got busier and busier. Obviously, as the Premier League weekend starts to come a little bit closer, and was on a couple of calls with George and the guys from TFC. Listen, TFC's taking over the world. Let me just tell you that right now. It's taken over. It's gonna take over. People don't know what's coming, but I'm telling you, it is gonna take over. The football community. We're going to touch on the Thierry Henry issues and stuff, but there is only one place for the football community to feel safe and comfortable, and that's going to be TFC. Remember, we said it here.
You did. You said it here. I've been saying it for a while, and I'll repeat something that George and we had a fascinating interview last night, which is up on the YouTube channel still, which you can see. A fantastic lady who's promoting out of Kenya football in Africa for women. Great interview. Have a look at it. And I said there last night, and I'll echo it today, a big thanks to the Football App community for the way they've welcomed me in. If just under a month, 3 weeks now, as part of that family, and I thank them for a very, very warm welcome. It's been fantastic. Okay, special guest time. Dave is joining us. He's director of Berwick. Now, I have to tell you, it's a very, very great story for Hollywood Balls, a great story for Berwick Rangers as well. But a big thanks to the middleman, Paul Jerry. Paul is a very good friend of mine. He's now a very good friend of Berwick. He introduced us. And I can announce here today that Hollywood Balls are going to be a major part of Berwick Rangers, literally, because they're going to be pitch side, courtesy of Paul and the guys at Berwick. So welcome, Dave. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks very much, Pete. Yeah, no, looking forward to this. Excited much. when we got asked through the week. So Paul's been winding me up overnight on Twitter. So yeah, no, I'm all good. Done my prep and looking forward to being in the company of 3 great individuals. So, and obviously, it's funny we were on about the Everton thing before there. The only other good thing to come out of Berwick upon Tweed, Kev, is Trevor Stephen.
Trevor Stephen. Wow.
Yeah.
He was
brilliant.
Yeah. So he was probably the only real major football player to come out of the town. So, and obviously he's in Dubai. Pete and I were just talking about this before. So yeah, great player.
Fantastic.
From one Everton legend to another. But Dave, I mean, it's a great story for Berwick, and again, personally for me, being able to have Hollywood Balls involved with it, we are going to be pitch side because we can be on an advertising hoarding, and we'll be keeping them updated with the games and with what's going on at Berwick. Fascinating club, great history, of which I'm going to touch on now. Am I right in thinking that you started with a group of milk workers in Dunbar taking on a postal team from Newcastle? Was that the first sort of game in 1881?
Yeah, that was where we all started. I mean, obviously, for your listeners and followers who don't really know about us as a place, I mean, it's funny you introduced me I'm assuming I was the Scotsman in the bar with you at the beginning. I'm actually English. I'm actually English. So
it's good. That's the job of hiding it.
Yeah, that's the nuance of Berwick, though. I mean, Berwick as a place is 4 miles south of the border, so we're in England. And obviously we play in the Scottish leagues. And as a town, we've kind of gone back and forward in history as the kings and the queens in the two countries used to fight each other. So, but yeah, that's how we started. Pete, just a small bounce game between a bunch of people from Dunbar and a bunch of people from down your neck of the woods. And 120 years on, we're still going.
Newcastle played 10 across the back that day, didn't they? Similar to now.
Yeah. But then again, Scotland didn't play with a striker. That's the second time. Craig Levine was the last man to do that a few years ago there. So, but so an amazing little club, to be honest. Just no worse than any of these other clubs that are kind of working hard. I mean, we came back to the club in January 2020 last year. We took over. We stood up in front of our fans and said, look, you know what, we're forecasting a 65k loss. We're going to probably have to shut the gates if you don't get behind us. And then 6 weeks later, COVID appeared, which wasn't really great. But the moral of the story is if you work hard, you get your fans on side. We actually ended last season with a small profit in the bank. We turned that 65k loss around and we've just kept at it. And, the fans have been absolutely amazing. The directors have been working really, really hard. And I think, like I said to you in the bit before we started, we've been fortunate enough to not have to build the plane while we were flying it. We've been able to take it out, stick it in the hangar and strip it right back to the basics. And, we're in a really good place to bounce back after COVID. So
messages starting to fly in, which is great. Absolutely fantastic. We'll get to them while we're chatting with Dave. Big good morning to Carl Walsh. Sunderland fan, and don't I know it? I've said credit where credit's due to Sunderland fans. They've finally got something to shout about. Another massive 3 points over the Easter weekend for them. They were 1-0 down. There was all sorts going on in that game. I was reading this morning against Oxford. Headbutts, goals, the lot. It sounded like a proper Easter weekend. But so morning, Carl. Paul Taylor's in as well. Thoughts on Steve Bruce? Comments about managerial roles. We'll get to that. I just want to stick with Berwick for the moment. The famous day, though, Dave, it's got to be 1967. That famous cup win. It is in folklore. Is it still mentioned with great affection in Berwick?
It is. I mean, I think what was it 2 weeks ago? You saw Brora knock Hearts out the Scottish Cup, which was pretty decent, but. For Berwick to knock Glasgow Rangers out of the Scottish Cup in '67 was massive, and I think there's a funny few side stories that came out of that game. I mean, the first one would be that at the time Jock Wallace was our player manager, and the reason Jock was down in Berwick of all places was that he was in the King's Own Scottish border, as he was in the army, so he was stationed in the town, so that's why he ran the club. So he was our goalkeeper, player manager, and obviously, as the guys know, he went on to have an amazing career at Rangers, Leicester City, Sevilla, etc. But I mean, we went 1-0 up. We got battered in the first 35 minutes as usual. But 2 minutes later, we should have went 2-0 up. And in fairness, Jock Wallace played, I think, the whole second half without a contact lens in goal, much like I think Jim Leighton did a few years ago in the FA Cup final. But we should have probably went on and won it more comfortably. And I think a couple of fun side stories from that one would be. the two strikers who actually played for Rangers that day, Jim Forrest and George McLean, they never played for Rangers again, ever. And
Really?
a couple of fun things out of that would be they lost the Cup Winners'
Dave's
Cup
just
final.
frozen for a sec. Right on cue.
Yeah.
You still with us,
Sorry.
Dave?
Yeah. So, yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah.
I am. Yeah. So they never played for Rangers again.
Never played for Rangers again. And Scott Simon went out that summer and signed a guy called Alex Ferguson for £65,000. So that was the start of Alex Ferguson for Rangers. So that's Berwick Rangers have got a bit in the making of Alex Ferguson's history. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, a massive day. So.
And we're proud to be a part of it. I've got to say a quick shout out as well on behalf of Paul and myself to two of the players who are in recovery mode. So Craig Reed and Lewis Barr, we wish you all the very best. Okay, Kev, it's a big weekend. The Premier League's back, like we said. There's a special game this weekend, isn't there? Special for Arsenal fans for sure, because of that famous game. But it's also a big game. Now, I've been reading in the press this weekend ahead of Arsenal and Liverpool. The pressure's on Liverpool. Would you agree with that?
Look, I think the pressure's on both teams, Pete. It's easy to just say it's on Liverpool. Pressure's always on. If you play for any one of these two clubs, the pressure's always on. You expected to win football matches. Arsenal in the first half of the season, as we know, have been pretty awful, but they're picking it up now. Liverpool haven't been themselves, obviously, with the injuries and stuff like that. But here's the thing about Liverpool. They're expected to win, but they've got a big Champions League game on Tuesday against Real Madrid.
Correct.
Away. So that might influence the manager in who he chooses. Because realistically, they're probably not going to finish where they want to in that top four. So might he change personnel? He might take a risk and not play the main players because that Real Madrid game is so big. So it's going to be interesting.
So an eye on that one, basically. Yeah. Like you're saying, maybe the race is probably run with regards to the Premier League, but they've got this. They had this whilst they were crashing and burning in the Premier League. They kept their heads above water in the Champions League. So it is a one to watch. George, your team, Spurs, they're at Newcastle. You would, most Spurs fans are going to be saying, we hope it's an easy 3 points because Newcastle get beat left, right, and centre. But there's a bit of a history there. Newcastle got a decent record against Spurs,
Yeah, I don't think there's ever an easy game at Newcastle. No. I think there is history where Newcastle have done well against Spurs there. Spurs have also had some very good results. It's going to be a closer game than people think. I really believe that. Newcastle are fighting for their lives. They have a strong defense, in my opinion, when they're focused, right? It's going to be a tough game.
There's a lot of big games this weekend. We'll get on to that later with the predictions. Kev, I've got to ask you though. We're talking Arsenal and Liverpool, but the famous game was the old. It's up for grabs now, but that took place at Anfield. But so many happy memories, and in a week when remembering a great gentleman and a great friend of yours, David Rocastle, it seems that we should touch on that.
Yeah, I think when George Graham took over in 1986. The first thing on his head was, I'm trying to build a team to challenge that team up on Merseyside because they had a great side. That Liverpool side were great, and he'd done it by bringing in players which were quite unfashionable. Nigel Winterburn, Lee Dixon, and Steve Bold, etc. came in. Kevin Richardson, ex-Everton player, and going up and help the youth come through. Tony Adams, Dave Rocastle, Martin Hayes, Niall Quinn, Paul Merson. Paul Davis was already involved. David O'Leary was already there. You add all those players into the mix. Brought Perry Groves for like 60 grand. It was incredible what he done over 3 years. And the league was in the hands. And then, Arsenal's performances, that was the year of Hillsborough, which was obviously very, very trying for everybody on Merseyside, especially the red side.
Yeah.
That happened and that prolonged the season. But to go up to Anfield on that day and to get a result against Liverpool and beat them by 2 clear goals, was incredible. And that really propelled Arsenal to the forefront. And, Dave Rocastle picked me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were going back the Saturday morning, going back to Brixton at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was, and he never changed a bit.
No.
His demeanor never changed. His attitude never changed. He was just a special human being.
He was, and following your social media this week, Kev, that was very much the feeling that came across from everybody connected, and it was a sad loss, not to the world of football, but just to everyone, because, as you say, a great guy. We'll touch on that when we come to do the predictions, because it's obviously going to be in there because it's my game of the weekend. Dave, just coming back up to you, you said that that you had to get a hold of the fans and say, guys, look, this is your club. We need you. Something that you did do, though, was you were a part, because all clubs, especially some of the Lowland League clubs as well, like yourselves, were struggling because of the pandemic. Tell us a little bit, though, about taking part in the virtual Scottish Cup, because this absolutely thrilled me.
Yeah, no, it was there was a young guy called Rory Kilgour who was a Wraith Rovers fan, and he was into kind of app technology, etc., etc. And he came up with this concept to run a virtual Scottish Cup. So basically, the way it worked was that each team had to play. You would be drawn out of a hat. You would be playing against opposition, and to score a point, a fan needed to donate £5. So it was basically donating a ticket to the team of your choice, and the team that got the most points basically won the tie. So what would happen is you would be drawn against a side. It would start on a Thursday at 7 p.m. and then you would have until Sunday 7 p.m. to score more points, fivers, than the other team. And it got quite incredible, to be honest. I mean, we raised over £13,000. We got to the quarter final of the virtual Scottish Cup. We got beat by Trinent. It became it was almost an Arsenal Spurs game for us, Berwick and Trinent. We ended up losing the game 1,576 to 1,894, which was £17,500 was to an extent donated on one tie.
Amazing.
2 small clubs, but for us as a club, it brought in about 15, 16k on top of some other money we'd done through Just Giving, which allowed us to raise over 26k. But Rory's idea has brought in nearly £320,000 to small clubs like us in Scottish football, and whether we like it or not, Scottish football and English football, the richness of money, it's completely just not in comparison. So for us in Scotland, it was amazing, and Rory deserves a lot of really great credit for it. But our fans were amazing, and it was challenging, Pete, because we'd only really just taken the club over in the January, and the fans were kind of behind us, but not completely with us yet. So fair play, they backed us and they really helped us out with a sticky spell. But again, like I was saying to you before, I mean, we've been able to raise a lot of money in the last 18 months during COVID. It's probably been a good spell for us in terms of getting the club back on a level footing, and but we're not out of the woods. We're always looking for new support and new investment and stuff like that. And so doing things like this allows us obviously just to extend our brand and extend our PR. So it's been brilliant. Really, really great.
What we can do is we can reach out to our TFA family who are in now all over the world, by the way, and say, look, you've all got teams. We know that. Let's get a second team adopted. Go and Google and have a look for Berwick Rangers and get behind them. Follow them on social media, and let's get behind them. George, I just wanted to come back about Spurs. Yes, it's Spurs Newcastle, but Harry Kane's been in the news again this week about, everyone's got an opinion, haven't they, about Harry? But it's time to leave. He's got to go if he wants to win anything.
Well, listen, look, a couple of things. It's a beautiful game, so everybody's entitled to an opinion, right?
What makes it.
Yeah, Harry Kane is under contract till 2024. So Daniel Levy has an incredible reputation out there. I'd be shocked if he left. I'd be shocked. But you never know. You never know. Of course, as Spurs fans, we all recognise we want to win trophies. So does Harry Kane. He's 27 going on to 28. So his patience may be tested, but he's a Spurs boy, through and through. He's one of us, as we say. So could I just take a moment, though, as a crazy Spurs fan, all fans share the same passion. and we respect all fans. And this week, we lost an Arsenal fan that we all love, Claude.
Yeah.
I just was a big shout out to Claude. May he rest in peace. We all love him. All the best to his family and to everybody who knows him. So, Claude, we love you, man.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very, very sad. Kev, it was something that you and I chatted about during the week as well. We swapped messages about. He was a big character on the Arsenal TV. He knew a lot of people. The fans knew him. He had connection, as in not connected, but he was a connection, as in you felt, it was the fans' voice, wasn't it, Kev?
Yeah. I think, the way he came across, a lot of fans felt the same way he did. Arsenal was his life, and a lot of I'm sure Dave could say, there's some Berwick fans who he would recognize as being the same. You, George, would be the same. You, Pete, will be the same. The football club is their life, and Arsenal Football Club was Claude's life. And when it was close season, he found himself, finding life difficult because there was no football there. So it was incredibly sad what happened, and he's another good guy who's been taken away from us in a difficult time. So well said, George. Really well said.
Well said, George. Messages are absolutely piling in. Got to say a big hello, speaking of Spurs and George's love of Spurs, to Mick Maguire, who never misses a show. Kev knows him as well. He's always on it, Kev, having a go. Mick, it's lovely to hear from you. Mick was my sort of immediate brother when I moved to London. I didn't know anyone coming down from Newcastle. Mick took me under his wing. That's for another show anyway. But a great guy is Mick, and a lovely family. He's now in the northeast of England, and I believe his son just started his own YouTube show yesterday. So I'm sure good luck with that. And Mick, yes, you can probably have the 3 points tomorrow. It is Newcastle after all. Okay. Where are we at? We're going to touch on and get this one done. We'll come to you all individually, but Kev, I'm going to start with you because it's Thierry Henry. He basically saying that until the Premier League, we're talking about social media and social media abuse here, which is again, it's another story, but it's been magnified quite rightly by the likes of Thierry Henry taking up the mantle for it. He's saying until the Premier League boycott social media, nothing will happen.
The problem is, listen, it's a great stance, by the way, and that's why I made him baller of the week last week. The problem Thierry Henry and everybody has is the Premier League are not going to boycott it.
No,
because there's too much prestige and too much money in it. Twitter have not, all these social media platforms have not done anything to combat it. So why are they going to start now? This isn't something that's just happened. This is something all of a sudden that's just being magnified. That's all. But I think, and this is why the football app is so special, because it has a zero tolerance policy.
Correct.
But until more people start doing what Thierry Henry does, they've got to go somewhere where they're going to be comfortable, where they're going to be looked after, and where they're going to be protected. Being a footballer with millions of fans, sitting on a platform that don't protect you, you're asking for trouble. That's the issue. So until many more people do what Thierry Henry does, and there is a perfect home for them, there's a perfect community for them on the football app, then more of this is just going to happen, because they're just sitting there waiting to be attacked, unfortunately.
I mean, what's remarkable is there's no place for abuse and racism anywhere. But the beauty of the beautiful game is that it brings people together, right? So that's at complete odds with this, right? So, the football app belongs to itself, the community. The community regulate it, okay? And Anybody who does anything, they get kicked out, and they can't come back in. And and they can't participate even in the economy that's generated by that, and that costs them money as well, right? In their community, which I'm just a part of, right? And we think that's a good balance, because especially in the game of football, the beautiful game which brings everybody together, there has to be zero tolerance. Has to be.
George, for me, you've hit the nail on the head. If you haven't got skin in the game, if there's something there that you don't want to lose, you toe the line. If it's financial, because what the Football App does for people, it gives them the ability to earn. Yeah. Who's going to mess up their earning? Yeah. You won't do it. So, people will, because they've got nothing to lose on Twitter and Instagram, etc. Because what do? They just open it. They just do another thing. But on the Football App, no, you get kicked out. You know who you are, and you can't then come in to earn the way you think you can, because you're blocked out. Yep. Once you got skin in the game, you got something to lose. Nobody's going to take the risk.
Yep. Dave, what's the view in Scotland? I mean, with clubs in Scotland.
Yeah. It's funny. My day job, I've spent 20 years in human resources in major corporate organisations, and I mean, social media is a real paradox. I'm with Kevin and George. I mean, I respect Thierry Henry for what he's done and the decision he's taken, because obviously for him it's just too much. Even me, I'm not a celebrity. I don't get things largely directed at me, but I found myself in the last few months wanting to switch my social media off, because I'm just getting really angry seeing what I'm seeing and reading what I'm reading. And I think the social media organisations do need to do more, but I think it's like that game when we were all young. You put one down and somebody else pops up somewhere else, and it's just constant. But in Scotland, it's not been as bad. I mean, I can actually give you a good example as recently as Wednesday, where social media played a major role, where there was a Motherwell supporter who basically posted that this was the code for his phone, for his notes on his phone, and basically what it looked like he was doing, he was a way to end his life. And the whole football community in Scotland restarted retweeting. They found the picture of his car, his number plate, and the police actually located him just in time to kind of protect him. So it's a paradox, social media. It's got its positives, but it's definitely, I think, at the minute. And I do wonder if it's in such a bad place at the minute, because the way people are feeling from a mental health point of view. I'm not saying that makes it right, but with the pandemic, I think people have got more time on their hands. They're probably more on their phone. They're probably more sitting in the house. They're just taking cheap shots at people that are more publicly visible, and I just think it's wrong. But I think a safe environment to what George is doing with the football community, what you guys are doing, is definitely required now. Absolutely.
And just before I move on, what I'd like to say finally on this point, just for this week, is that with the Football App and with George and Steve, Kev, why aren't the powers that be in other areas taking the advice of people like George and Steve on how to run a happy house? Because that's what it is, and it's global. It's the same thing, and it's all for the love of football. There are so many different teams in there, and everyone gets on. Everyone has a nice word. Everyone has there's fun in there when their team is playing Newcastle versus Arsenal. But what a great community! And these guys should possibly, in my opinion, should speak to the likes of Steve and George who are creating this.
Pete, I think the problem is first of all, it's the philosophy you have at the beginning. You have to set your stall out with that philosophy to start with. But a lot of these companies build it, I say, the wrong way. But they've built these juggernauts, and then you try and police it after. It's too late. You can't retrospectively then do anything, because these things have taken on a world of its own. And if you start closing accounts, you lose money. And these businesses are about money. What do you think, Dave?
I agree. To be honest, what I was going to say, you're psychic. It's that point you made earlier. I think it's the money side of things, Pete. I think these are major corporate organisations, major sponsorship, major advertising. I think the football authorities, there's that tension with sponsorship, income, and all that kind of stuff, where I think money wins all the time, which is wrong, so. Yep.
Yeah, and that's a model where you see two things in conflict, right? You see the beautiful game which brings everybody together on an equal level playing field, and yet you see these environments where we're seeing experiences which are just inappropriate and should never be tolerated. Yeah,
totally. Okay, moving back into the game itself. I touched on it at the beginning. Kev, I want to start this one with you because obviously you've played at the highest level. We're going to be talking Manchester City and the quadruple. Just, I'm reading about it and it's fascinating. And it's fascinating from me, from a presenter's perspective, is to think that it's a media juggernaut. City are a juggernaut. Yes, they're firing on all four fronts, but how difficult is it going to be to even realize that dream of a quadruple?
Well, it's never been done. That'll tell you how difficult it is. It's never been done, and what it also does. And I know Manchester City has a very well, lucratively assembled squad. Let's put it that way. But it's even going to stretch them to the limits. And you need a couple of slices of luck to win certain trophies, and it hasn't happened at Man City. I don't think they'll do it personally. I think they will win a couple of trophies. I think the league's in the bag, although they obviously have to perform to see that through.
Yeah,
but I just think it's so difficult to do. It really is, and I'm sure George's team are going to be all out. Spurs in the final of the League Cup. You're looking at the league. Obviously, we think they're going to win it. The FA Cup, there's still a lot of dangerous teams in that. And then the Champions League, you look, Dortmund are no pushover. Let's have it right.
Yeah.
But you look at the likes of Bayern Munich, Liverpool.
Bayern Munich are still marked for me,
teams with huge histories in that competition that are going to have a lot of things to say about where that trophy goes. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Liverpool to do.
In addition, Kev, this morning, City came out and said as well that they can't afford to replace Aguero, that they won't be having a forward. So,
hey, Pete, let me tell you, when Manchester City come out and say that they can't afford something, something's going down, Pete. I'm telling you, know it. Because Pete, they've got more money than most clubs could even dream of. Man City. Come on.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't need a forward.
I agree completely. I'm with Kevin on this one. I think City have incredible resources, financial resources, and they'll get somebody. Yeah.
But George, winning domestically, George, in a season is something that's close to Spurs' heart as well. They talk about the famous double. The double's difficult enough, but tacking another couple of cups on there as well for good measure.
Listen, Manchester City have done phenomenal this season, and I take my hat off to them. It like the commentary we're all saying here. When I think about the quadruple, I think Bayern Munich. Can they get past that? Again, do not underestimate. We've touched on this last week. I think Liverpool in the Champions League is an entirely different team to Liverpool in the Premier League this season. Don't know why. But I do think Bayern could be a step too far for Manchester City in the Champions League. I think they've got a great chance of winning all three domestics. I do that. Of course, I pray and I hope with everything that Spurs pour one out of the bag in the League Cup final. But City have got to be favourites for that, clearly, right? So I see them winning 2 or 3 trophies in the domestic, and I think maybe just fall a little bit short. I would say if they had the Haaland or another forward in Champions League, I think they may need that.
Like a Harry Kane, George. Or
I can't bring myself to say that, Dave.
Dave, speaking of your crowdfunding, you get a bit of Berwick on there and get Haaland over to Berwick.
A little bit, maybe.
All joking aside, though, you're scheduled for Is it the 10th of April? Are you hoping to get back in, or
we got no? So, our league was called this week, points per game, which means we're now back on the 17th of July. So we're going to play a bit earlier in the summer, which is
okay.
We think fans back. So we've got a couple of games already scheduled in. One from your neck of the woods, North Shields, and a friendly in Workington, Danny Granger.
No friendlies from North Shields.
No. And then we're speaking to Sunderland and Newcastle at the moment as well about friendlies. So, but
right.
Looking forward to next season.
Okay, it's time for a bit of, and I love this bit, and it doesn't stop all you guys as well messaging in and letting us know who you think your baller of the week is going to be. I'm going to start this week with George.
I had it down between two players, Declan Rice and Joe Rodon, for the performance of the week. Really, it should go to Declan Rice. He knits it all together. What a beautiful player, and I think he's coming into his own. But I would give a special shout out to Joe Rodon. He was outstanding for Wales, and he epitomised the reason why Wales won. So I'll give it to Declan, but a special shout out to Joe Rodon.
Okay, Dave, baller of the week from yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So again, likewise between two, and whilst I am English with Scottish parents, I am a Scotland fan. So it was nearly an Arsenal player, Kev. It was nearly Kieran Tierney, who I think is coming onto his game now. He's there, but I'm going to give it to Super John McGinn for his Ronaldo overhead kick and 2 goals against the Faroes. I think McGinn could play at a high. I'm no disrespect to Villa, but I think he could play at a higher level still. Good player.
And wrapping up baller of the week with you, Kev.
Yeah, Dave's just stole my thunder. Yeah, with that,
Amazing.
He's got a list there. Listen, I think John McGinn is a really, really good player. I really do, and I wouldn't mind seeing him at the Arsenal. To be honest, I'll be brutally honest with you. He's a lefty. He works so hard, and he's got a goal in him, which makes a massive difference. But I'm going to give it to Kieran Tierney. I think the way he's come on, and when you have 3 assists in a game, it's incredible. I think he's getting better and better. Had a couple of injuries earlier on this season, but now he's performing, and this is the business end of the season. So anyone who creates 3 goals and has 3 assists, I'm going to give it to him. So I think Kieran Tierney.
It is Arsenal-Liverpool weekend, and it is our feature game. And if anyone disagrees with that, then that's why football's such a good game. But it is the game that we've picked. Arsenal are going reasonably well in the Premier League at home. I think it's about 7 or 8, Kev. But Liverpool are performing away. They're playing reasonably well, better away from Anfield. We'll get your predictions later on, but the stats are pointing towards a cracking game of football between two sides who are going to play. They are going to play football. Do you think that that Liverpool will just be keen to not get beat?
No, I think anytime Liverpool come to London to play Arsenal, I think it's always you want to get one up on your rival. You do. But as I say, I think this Liverpool side right now will have one eye on the Champions League. I think that's normal, although they still have to play the game. So whether Jurgen Klopp picks his strongest team or not, I'm not sure. But it's a definitely game that, as a fan, I want to win. I want to beat them. I want to beat the brakes off them, Pete, to be honest with you.
Obviously, you do shock me. Of course, and why not? I've got to say the 2 players to look out for. Lacazette has a great record against Liverpool, but Mane equally has a very good record against Arsenal. He's only scored against Crystal Palace more goals. So two players to watch for goals there in that one. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to a little bit of the predictions. Now we've got something to clear up because I've got an apology to make to Jace Edwards, the one and only Jace. I literally messed it up. He was late to last week's international predictions party. He came in a day late.
A day? Exactly. Yeah. He's done. He's done, Jace. Come on.
Disqualified.
Day late.
Jace came in literally, and I checked the messages, and it's not like the games had started, so he was within reason. And amazingly, this is where Kev's gonna do a Piers.
Don't you start me today, Pete.
He's going to do a Piers here. I can feel it. Anyway, our guest last week, Julian from Football for Football, topped it with 6 points. Congratulations to him, George. Yet again, George, there's no taking it away from you. A 4-point haul with Kev, but Jason finished second with 5 points.
Wow.
Hey, Pete. Jason it didn't even do his scores on the right time. He's out. Throw him out. By the way, where was Barry, by the way? Where was this Barry who keeps mouthing it? Where did he finish?
Barry finished bottom, I have to say.
Oh, there you go. You see? So, now you see. Barry got lucky earlier on.
Now, everyone can see in TFA and on Facebook Live and on YouTube and in Scotland how seriously this competition is taken. It's phenomenal. It's gone big. Yeah. It's not, and Dave's been working on this for 3 days. With all the stats. And
Dave
again,
will probably win now. He'll probably win now.
I've got to say as well, if you're in TFA, you've got a good chance on this because TFA in our app has a fantastic system whereby you can go back and look at the history between the sides, giving too much away here. So I'm gonna move into it. With us today is Jace. Obviously, he's on time. Jace Edwards, welcome, and Carl Walsh up from Wallsend Boys Club, who's a Sunderland fan, massive Sunderland fan. Good 3 points, Carl. We'll move swiftly on from that. The first game, and we're going to start with Dave. Leicester Man City.
Well, it's interesting what we've just been talking about, because I've got a wee sneaky suspicion this could be a stumble today. I think Leicester 3 wins out of 5, Man City 4 wins out of 4 wins out of the last 5. I'm going for a Leicester 2-1. And he actually seems to have hit a wee bit of form. I'm a United season ticket holder. Man U, they were brilliant against us in the FA Cup. So I like what Rodgers has done. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Leicester win.
Okay, George.
I'm going to go for the opposite. I think it will be a cracking game. I think City squeeze it 2-1.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, look, I'm going for City to win this game. There ain't many teams who would do the double over Manchester City. And Leicester beat them up there. So I could imagine Pep Guardiola, you know what he's like. He's going to say, what, boys? We make sure we turn them over. So I'm going to go for a City win. I thought 2-1, but as George's got 2, I'm going to go for 3-1 City.
3-1. Wow. Okay. Also joining George on that is Jace and Carl. They've both gone 2-1 City. Okay. Back up top. Dave, Newcastle against Spurs. Now, every weekend I say the same. Fill your boots, whoever Newcastle are playing. I do. But I have to say, in complete opposite, and all my Newcastle buds will hate me for this. I've got a real feeling Newcastle are going to get a result on Sunday. I do. I'm just going to
go against that. Go against that. I've got this feeling. And my friend Andrew texted me last night and just said, "Take him away." So on that note, hey, what you got? Newcastle Spurs.
I'm sadly not with you, Pete. Although I'm not going for a tanking. George must be delighted with the squad. The front 4, front 5 at Spurs. I mean, fantastic. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win here. 4 wins out of 5. Newcastle no wins out of the last 5, sadly. So 2-1. But a tough game, not an easy game.
No, very tough game. George, your beloved Spurs.
I think Spurs are out to prove that the Villa game was not a one-off. After those 2 embarrassing games against the Arsenal and the Europa League, I think they're going to be squarely focused on building on that. I think it will be much closer than people think. I'm going to go for Spurs to win 2-1.
Okay. Kev, come on. You never, ever take Spurs to win.
But they don't play Newcastle every week, do they? They don't play Newcastle every week. That's for sure. I can tell you that. Oh man, listen, I've got to go for Spurs. I just have to, and it's something stuck in my throat, but I have to go for Spurs. Newcastle just don't have the firepower, Pete. And I'm not
No.
sure if Callum Wilson's on the mend, where
It's
whether he's
soon,
ready.
this one.
Yeah, it's too soon. And I think it's right they give him an extra week or so to get himself back. But they just don't have the firepower, Pete. So, listen, I'm going to go for Spurs to win 2-0.
We've got a message in. Kev, I have to read it out because otherwise my life's not worth living. Your life isn't worth living.
Yeah.
Maxine English is on. It's the sister, and she's put Super Kev outrageous.
Lovely. God bless you, Max.
I'll leave that one with you. Okay, moving on swiftly for Kev's sake and my sake as a brother. What did we have? Jace took 2-0, by the way, to Spurs. And Carl, being a Sunderland fan, took 3-1 to Spurs. But I can't disagree with either of them.
Yeah.
Man United against Brighton, Dave.
I think as a United season ticket holder, I'm going for a 3-0 home win. I want to see Cavani play because I want to see Cavani get a contract for another season to play in front of the fans. I think if United play the way they can play, I'd see a few goals in this game.
Okay. Score?
3-0.
3-0. Okay. George?
2-0 Man U. Brighton, I think they're challenged when it comes to firepower. They play good football. I like them very much. But I think United are solid. And 2-0 Manchester United.
Super Kev?
I've gone for 3-0 United, same as Dave, to be honest. I just think this is a little bit of a step too far for Brighton.
He does play well, though, as George says, Potter. He's got them playing. They play well. But they do one thing that John Burridge can't stand. I've got to say to big shout out to Budgie, who was poorly last week. But I think he's on the mend, Kev, judging by the social media videos.
Did you see his video? Oh,
God. I love it.
Trying to dance. Bless you.
But Budgie's pet hate is this playing it around from the back. And they tend to do that. And when you're down there, I don't really think it's wise. On that note, Jace has taken Man United 3-0 and Carl has taken Man United 2-0. Yorkshire Derby up north. Leeds Sheffield United would have been a fantastic game if the fans were in. Dave, what you got for Leeds and Sheffield?
I've gone for a Leeds 3-1 victory. I think Sheffield United sadly have gone. I think and Leeds are at home formidable. So 3-1.
Okay. George?
I think Sheffield United won't leave anything. They'll leave it all on the pitch. It's a massive derby. They've got their pride. They've got their pride to think of. They're going down. We all know that. I think they're going to give it everything. I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay. Kev?
I think local pride in Yorkshire is going to be at the forefront, and it's not going to be a blowout. But I'm gonna pick Leeds to shade it 2-1. Close game.
I've got to say as well about Sheffield United, I've watched a lot of them this season, and compared to Newcastle, they play well. They're tough. They're competitive, and I think they've been unlucky in a lot of their games. They've lost out late on or by the odd goal. They've been a lot of fight.
They've been.
I think
it's certainly the first half of the season. They were in the games, although they were losing them. They were really into it until the end very often. Yeah.
I think George and Kev have said it about Newcastle and Brighton. I think it's the same. It's just firepower. It's like, you can maybe the ball in the back of the net fundamentally gets you, the points or the results. So I just think they lack a little bit up top.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. I look at Maupai, who's a good player at Brighton. He's exciting to watch. But then I look, if Newcastle had Callum Wilson and he wasn't injured, Callum Wilson does it all. Sorry to mention it, Kev, but that day against Everton, totally unplayable.
No, he was unplayable. Pete, Pete, he's the top scorer and he's the top assist at Newcastle. So when you take that player out of your team,
probably the top defender as well. Okay,
Pete, he's on double figures. He's on double figures, which is great, so fair enough.
A fantastic professional, hard to knock off the ball, and that's what Newcastle need. The big game, as we filled it, is Arsenal against Liverpool. What else? So Jason's taken, 2-1 Sheffield United, as I said, and Carl's got 2-1 as well. Arsenal, Liverpool, Dave.
Have they gone both for Sheffield United?
2-1-2. My mistake, Kev. Leeds United. Yeah. Leeds United. Yeah, my handwriting. Yeah,
I was going to rub my hands together there. God.
Arsenal, Liverpool.
Yeah, no. So I mean, when you look at the stats, though, the last 5, both of them only got 2 victories each. But I'm going to go for the 2s each because I don't think neither team are secure at the back, but both likely to score goals as well. So I'm going to go for a hard-fought draw, 2-2.
George.
It pains me to say this.
I love it when George says that. And it really does as well, by the way. It really does pain
It pains me to say this because of the Champions League game against Real Madrid on Tuesday, number 1. 2, Arsenal are much better than people think. Difficult thing for me to say, but it's true. Arteta knows what he wants. He knows where he's going. Okay. Yeah. On that basis, I feel like hanging myself. Arsenal to win 2-1. Oh, can we close up now?
Do you want George? I can edit that out of the replay after. The show.
Please. Look, I've got all red. You can feel it. My mum's going to call me. I'm telling you, she's going to kill me. My mum's going to call me. Yeah, Arsenal to win 2-1.
There you go. Moving swiftly on for George's safety. Kev, what you got?
Pete, could you just repeat what George said there, please?
You see, yeah.
George.
Look, for me, Dave makes a good point, and George makes a really good point as well. The Champions League is going to play a part because it's so close. By on Tuesday, they're probably going to travel on Sunday, or probably Sunday they travel. Arsenal are better. They've improved since the turn of the year. And, we're in the last knockings now. So, listen, I'm going to go for an Arsenal victory. I know it's going to be tight. Liverpool ain't going to really give an inch because it's a big game. But I'm going to go for an Arsenal win 2-1 as well.
Okay. What else have we got? We've got Jason, who's taken Liverpool to win 2-1, which is odd for a Liverpool from an Everton fan.
From Blue! Jason,
all right.
You turncoat.
So now listen what's happened. Listen, my brother just WhatsApped me. He said, your mum's not going to talk to you.
Amazing. You see, this is what happens when it's take them on time. It divides families. Jason's gone 2-1 to Liverpool, and Carl Walsh has taken 2-1 to the Arsenal. Absolutely fantastic. Got to say a quick hi in the Philippines to the one and only Tony Manuel, the absolute legend of a jockey in his day. Put a great photograph the other day on Facebook, did Tony. It was in black and white. I think he was about 20 odd, but I didn't really want to ask him how long ago it was. But Tony, you look very well in the photo. Lovely to have you in the show, as well as all of our TFA family. We're coming towards the end. I'm going to ask everyone what they've got planned for the weekend. Dave?
Well, I had a game of golf yesterday, and I've got a game of golf tomorrow, and I'm about to go for a long walk with my wife and my daughter. So I'm just going to relax. So
good stuff. George, have you got a weekend of football lined up?
Of course, football. I hope to spend a little bit of time with my kids. They've got exams coming up, hoping to help with that. But to be honest, it's football and the football app non-stop, 24/7, baby.
It is as well. And as I say, now being a family member, I take my hat off to George and Steve and everyone concerned there, because it literally is a 24/7 app. It never stops. Kev, what have you got on this weekend?
I'm doing the Real Madrid game today.
Yeah.
I've got a project I'm working on tomorrow, and I've got the Barcelona game on Monday. So it's a busman's weekend. I'm working, so I love it.
Love
it. And who you on with? Who's guesting with you, Kev? Out of interest.
Peter Reid. Peter Reid is on, and Joe Morrison, as you know. So
give my regards to Joe, great guy, as is Reid, of course, a legend. We flashed the code up once more for all of our TFA family. Because I'm feeling generous, we're going to do one last one. A big shout out, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us today. We will, of course, now. You are a part of Hollywood Balls, and Hollywood Balls is a part of Berwick Rangers. We can't wait to further our partnership. Looking forward to seeing our logo around the ground. Thanks for joining us today, Dave. George, as ever.
Cheers, Dave.
And
Kev, cheers, guys.
Good luck to the Arsenal. Let's hope.
No, don't say that.
No, George, he
Whoever-
didn't ask you to say it, George.
Whoever your team is, I wish you luck, and I wish you a very happy holiday, a very happy Easter holiday, wherever you are in the world, and a Hollywood Balls weekend. Take care, everybody.